So, hi guys, this evening I wanted to just make a quick video, and I've been spending a lot of time studying today and going over some things, and I just wanted to share what I've been learning with you. You know, the commandments are something that is very hard on my life. You know, it's on my heart. I'm tired, sorry. I've been reading all day, so anyways, something that's very, very heavy on my heart, and it's something that it's not enough for me to just say, okay, we got to live by the 10 commandments. I know that there's more to it than that, and you know, coming out of Christianity, we hear all the time that, you know, we don't have to keep the law is dead. And so let's just go with that for a minute, okay? Let's think about this for a minute. You're telling me that the law is dead, but Yahweh calls the law perfect. He calls the law just. He calls it holy. So do his disciples and his prophets. They all refer to the law as with words like liberty, with love, with truth, with righteousness. These are the words that they use to describe the law. I want you to really ask yourself, why would Yahweh take something like that away from his children that he loves? If it's so perfect, if it's so just, if it's so holy, if it's the ultimate standard on how to live in life, then why would he take that away from you? You know, people say all the time that if you're trying to keep the law, then you're mocking what Jesus did on the cross. Well, do you ever actually listen to the words that come out of your mouth? Because here you are, you're saying that Yeshua had to come and die because they couldn't live by the law, because people weren't living by the law properly, because the law had been so twisted and distorted that people didn't know what was law and what was tradition anymore. That's why Yeshua came and railed against that stuff. He came and railed against the traditions and doctrines of man, because man had added to the Torah, when it's right here in the Torah. Do not add or take away from my Torah. Now, sadly, what we had is we had the Jewish leadership actually add to the Torah. They added all kinds of traditions to the Torah, whether it be how you cook your food, how you eat your food, how you put your shoes on. I mean, name your poison. They added it to the Torah. And when you read their writings and when you understand a little bit deeper, you can see where every manipulation was them overguarding a commandment. But what they actually did is they added to the commandment, and they made the commandments a burden. But sadly, on the other side of that coin, we see that the Christian church is taking away from the law, and they're flat out preaching against the law. Okay? They're preaching against keeping the commandments. They're telling you that if you're keeping the commandments or you're going under Torah, that you're mocking what Jesus did on the cross, and that couldn't be anything further from the truth. You know, what you're actually doing is you're paying a reverence to Yeshua and to the Father, and you're saying, hey, I get it. I get it. We were so horrible. We couldn't keep this law. So you had to come and you had to die for our sin. You had to come and die for every mistake that we'd made and for every mistake that we will make from that point on. You had to send your son to die for us, so we don't have to live by the law that he came to die for us because of? That makes no sense. I mean, think about that from a parental standpoint. Okay, so you have a rule that there's no being on the phone after 10 o'clock. You can't be on your phone after 10 o'clock. You got to turn in your phone. So every night at 10:30, I have to go in and take my daughter's phone away because she's not off the phone by 10 o'clock. Does that mean that I change the rule because she can't manage to get off the phone at 10 o'clock? No, it means that I enforce the rule even harder. Okay? Maybe the punishment may have gotten changed, but the fact of the matter is she still has to get off the phone at 10 o'clock because that's my Torah. That's my law. Those are my instructions. And they are there to put in place to keep my daughter protected, safe, healthy, whatever the case may be, whatever the Torah commandment is, it's put into one of those categories. To keep us safe, to keep us protected, to keep us healthy, whatever the case may be. But what I really just want to ask you guys is, if you're one of those people out there preaching that the law is done away with, first off, have you ever read it? What is it that you have a problem with that is in Torah? Because basically, when I read a comprehensive list of the 613 commandments, I see a lot of really basic stuff here. And not only that, but I see stuff in here that the Christian church is doing. But I see some stumbling blocks for the Christian church. I see where they have a problem with their diet. I see where they have a problem with the Sabbath. I see where they have a problem with coveting. I see that a lot in the Christian church. But I just have to ask you guys, are those things really that big? Is your bacon really that important to you that it trumps what Yeshua came and did for you? That he came back and made a way for you to be in covenant with him without having the burden of death over your head every time you messed up? You know, I want to just read a couple of these to you. I mean, let's just go over the ones that have to do with God, you know, a few of them that have to do with God. To know that God exists. That's a commandment. Pretty simple, right? Don't blaspheme Yahweh. Let's see here. Hallow his name. To love Yahweh. To fear him reverently. And do not put Yahweh to the test. If you are a Christian and you have problems with these commandments, then the problem is not the commandments. The problem is your heart. Let's go over here and just read a couple of the ones that have to do with your fellow man. You know, I hear all the time about how the law was just nothing but death, that nothing, you know, there was slavery in the law, there was this in the law, there was that in the law. But what I actually read when I go over these commandments is I see where there were provisions made for just about every situation that you could encounter in life. There were provisions made for you in your finances. There were provisions made for you in your business dealings. There were provisions made for the poor. There were provisions set in place for everything. And the reality is, this is what you should be living your life like. This is how you should be this is what you should be basing your life on. Is what Yahweh said it looks like to love him and to love your neighbor. You know, it's always so mysterious in the New Testament where Yeshua says, you know, you need to love the Lord your God and you need to love your neighbor. And then he says the rest of the Torah commandments hang off of these two commandments. So then your average Christian says, oh, okay, well, we only have to do these things. Well, let me ask you a question. How can you ask somebody to love their neighbor who maybe is a manic depressive? How do you ask somebody to love their neighbor who's got sociopathic tendencies? How do you ask somebody to love their neighbor who has been in an abusive relationship, or maybe they were abused as a child? Whatever the case may be, this person has issues with loving and trusting other people, and maybe they don't know what love is supposed to look like. We were never meant as humans to figure it out on our own. We have the blueprint. We have the blueprint. Moses it filtered through Moses and down to us, and we know what loving our neighbor should look like. It looks like this. It looks like helping a human when their life is in danger. That's a Torah commandment. It looks like don't slander your brother. Don't harbor hatred in your heart. Don't take revenge. Don't bear a grudge. Don't shame your brother. And don't cause the simple-minded brother to stumble. That's in the Torah, you guys. So when Paul said, don't be a stumbling block to your brother, it's right here in Leviticus 19:14. It's a Torah commandment. Don't cause your brother to fall. when Paul was talking to them about, eating certain meats. Well, don't eat any meat if it's going to cause your brother to stumble. That's what he was talking. He was quoting the Torah. This lawless man who walked around supposedly quoting that the law was dead was teaching Torah. Whether you like it or not, he was teaching Torah. Okay? It talks about how to help your neighbor when they're in need. To help, it says to relieve your neighbor of his burden, to help him unload his beast. Okay, well, a lot of people would read that today and go, well, that doesn't have anything to do with me. Well, doesn't it? All you have to do is look at these commandments and put them in modern terminology. Okay, so it says to help your neighbor of his burden, to help unload his beast. Well, that could be as simple as helping your neighbor with their groceries into their house, or helping somebody with their things to their car. That's helping your neighbor of their, that's relieving their burden. Okay? I mean, honest to God, and I'm just scratching the surface here. All you have to do is just go online, okay, and type in 613 commandments, and you'll come across this website. Hold on, let me pull it up here so I give you the right one. You will come across Jewfac.com, and it's FAQ, F-A-Q, Jewfac.com, and it'll give you this /613.hotmail, HTM, okay? And pull them up and read them for yourself, because I got to tell you, as somebody coming out of Christianity who has been told time and time again, oh, the law is dead. The law was a burden. The law was horrible. It was just brought death. It was nothing but death. The law wasn't death. The penalty for breaking the law brought death. These commandments don't bring death. Loving your neighbor, not holding grudges, forgiving people, not slandering people or gossiping, and loving God, those things aren't a burden. If you think those things are a burden, the problem is not the law. The problem is you. Okay? You're not walking in the right spirit. You might think you're being led by the Spirit, but if the Spirit is leading you away from these principles in life, then you are not walking with the right spirit. That is basically what I am gleaning from this whole day in reading these commandments and rewriting these commandments so that I can teach myself these commandments. And a lot of them are ingrained in us. Somewhere, somehow, a lot of these commandments got through to me, because I've read commandments today that seemed obscure, but they're things that I've actually done. Just on my own accord, not even thinking about it. It's just who I am to do those sorts of things. Okay, so we tend to tear down and pick apart things that we don't understand. And the reality is, people only understand things from a New Testament context. They don't understand that every time throughout that whole New Testament, and mind you, the New Testament is that much of your Bible, which is this big, okay? And even so, it's probably even smaller, because most of the New Testament is Paul's writings, and the whole entire Christianity is based on what Paul said. They don't care about what Jesus said. They don't care about what Jesus said, because Jesus said he came to not get rid of the law. Oh, but we're going to twist that and turn that, and we're going to make it mean what Paul said, because we like what Paul said better. There is a serious heart issue among Christians, and it's got nothing to do with me. It's got everything to do with you and the Father. You need to deal with it. And I hope when I make these videos, my hope is that I can get you to understand that you have a heart issue. I haven't always been this way. I used to be you. I used to do everything thinking, oh, well, I know what I'm doing, or this is what my pastor, or this is what my teacher told me to do. You know, that's how I lived my life until I started reading this stuff for myself. It changes your whole perception. It changes your whole perspective on what it is you're supposed to be doing. Okay? And doing the works that the church does, and I don't discount what the church does. I don't discount them going out and feeding the homeless and taking care of the poor. But the reality is, it's all for nothing if you're not being obedient to the Creator's instructions, because all of that stuff you're doing, it's in the Torah. It's Torah based. It's not Christian based. It's Torah based. The Israelites were commanded to do all of the same things that you're commanded to do as a Christian. Why are you commanded to do the same thing? Because you are no longer a Gentile. You are a grafted in Israelite. And they were already commanded to take care of the poor. They were already commanded to take care of poor people. Look at right here. It's talking specifically to farmers. It's saying when you forget sheaves in the field, to leave them. You're supposed to leave them so that you can feed the poor. Let's see. Don't reap your entire field. Don't take all the grapes when you go into your orchards to pluck your grapes. If you don't take all the grapes, you leave some for the poor. There's provisions in here to take care of those people. The Christian church didn't make that stuff up. It came from here. Okay, but the reality is we need to be obedient to these instructions. This is what sets us apart as people. This is what aligns our spirit with His spirit. Okay? This is it. This is what aligns our spirit with His spirit. And you get your vertical relationship. The Christian church is great at their horizontal relationship. Okay? They're taking care of, homeless people. They're feeding the poor. They're doing all that stuff. But they're taking very simple commandments from Yahweh. Don't eat unclean meats. I don't want you to be sick. You're my children and I love you. I don't want you to be sick. Don't eat those. Those things are not food. Those things are not food. And that didn't start in the Torah. No one knew about clean and unclean animals. As a Christian, would you be shocked if I told you right now that Noah didn't just take 2 of every animal onto the ark? He took 2 pairs of every unclean animal. 2 pairs. 1 man, 2 males, 2 females. 2 pairs of each unclean. Of all of the clean animals, he took 7 pairs. Just read a couple more verses past the first verse, and you'll see that. There was a distinction of clean and unclean even when they were putting animals on the ark. Okay, certain foods were meat for food. Certain animals were never created to be food. That's why we don't eat dogs. That's why we don't eat cats. They were never created to be food. Well, some cultures eat them, sadly, but I digress. Anyways, we don't eat certain animals because we know they're pets. And when people do eat those animals, it's taboo. And that's where we need to get with unclean foods. With pigs, with horse meat, with shellfish, all of that stuff that we're not supposed to eat. We need to get in that same system. Oh, is that dog? What? What are you eating, a dog? What? That's where that comes from. That's where that differentiation comes from. Is because somewhere along the line we knew that certain things are not supposed to be food. So don't eat them. If he wants it, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I never celebrated the Sabbath. I didn't know about the Sabbath. The Sabbath was something that the Spirit put on my heart when I finally started reading my Bible. I didn't even know what a Sabbath was. I knew that the Jews kept Shabbat. I didn't even realize it was called Sabbath. I thought it was just Shabbat or Shabbos. I didn't understand what it meant until I read my Bible. Once I read my Bible, I started wondering, why aren't we keeping this day? Why aren't we resting on this day? We were told to rest on this day. Because I'm pretty sure that these people he's talking about, I'm pretty sure I'm one of them. Because for whatever reason, this was all resonating in my soul. When I read this, it stirred my soul. And I started asking questions. And if you're looking up videos like this, then you're obviously asking questions too. because you're looking for answers. We're all just looking for answers, you know. Anyways, I don't want to babble on too long. I just wanted to let you guys know that I challenge people. If they tell you, okay, here's perfect example. Question them. If somebody tells you, why are you living by the law is dead. The law is, we don't have to do that anymore. That was for them, this is us. What are you doing? Ask them, can you tell me one commandment in the law that you disagree with? Just one. Because it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to make them realize that they have no idea what's in the law, or it's going to open up a platform where now you can talk to them about something and you can correct them. Or you can maybe direct them to somebody who can correct them. But this institutionalized ignorance has got to stop. It's got to stop. The clock is ticking and time's a wasting. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not studying this stuff, if you are not seriously reading these commandments and asking yourself, how can I implement this in my life? I don't even know what you're doing. You're wasting your life. You're wasting your time. Let me put it to you another way. All those good works that you do, go check out what an atheist does on a daily basis. I know atheists who run circles around you Christians as far as taking care of poor, as far as feeding the homeless, as far as giving people money. I mean, they're very charitable people. But if you're missing that piece of obedience, then all of your works are in vain. Think about it very carefully in Matthew when they come to him and say, Lord, Lord, did we not do all these great things in your name? We cast out demons. We did all these wonderful works in your names. And he's going to say, get away from me. I didn't know you. Because you practiced Torahlessness. You didn't keep my commandments. You didn't have that relationship with me. I didn't know you. Man, if you're a Christian and you think you're doing everything right, and you go to heaven and you hear that, I can't think of anything worse. Honest to God, I can't think of anything worse. That's got to be the worst thing in the world to hear. Is you thought you did everything right, but because you didn't want to listen to that crazy woman talking to you about keeping the commandments of God, you get turned away at the gate, because there is no gate for the Gentile. There's no gate for the Gentile. There's no way for the Gentile. Paul says you were once a Gentile, and now you're grafted in. That means you leave all that old baggage and all that old stuff behind, and you die to yourself, and you pick up your cross and you follow him. How do we follow him? We keep his commandments. Jesus came and he said, the doctrine I preach is not my own, but of the Father. And the Father says, I give you good doctrine. Do not forsake my Torah. It is time for you to reevaluate what you think you know. It is time for you to seriously do an inventory of your heart. And it is time for you to start asking your teachers and your pastors some serious questions. And if you don't feel like that's going to go the way you want it to go, then you need to just leave. You need to be obedient. This is the hour. We're being regathered, and we need to be obedient. And with that, I need to go to bed. So I love you all. I hope you had a very happy and blessed Shabbat. I know I did, and I look so forward to my Shabbats. You know, people tell me that all the time. They're like, well, what difference does it make? It makes a difference, and you don't realize the difference it makes until you start instituting it into your life. I'll tell you what, I'm a chronic pain sufferer. I have an issue with my foot right now on the left side, and my hip on the right side. I've been in pain almost every day for the past, good Lord, 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know. I can't remember the last time I slept an entire night in a bed. I can't lay flat. I have all kinds of issues. My back is just like, "Nyeh." So when I have a day that I get to sit in my lazy boy and do nothing but read and watch fellowships and sleep and do nothing. I don't have to do nothing. I don't have to get up and cook for my kids. They make sandwiches, they make cereal, whatever the case may be. I look so forward to that. That day is such a blessing to me. That's my day. Nobody can take that away from me. He created that day for me. He every Friday he comes and he's got a big box with a bow on it, and I open it up and go, ha ha, Shabbat. That's his gift to me. When you decide to not take that gift, think of it metaphorically like that. When you decide to not keep the Shabbat, that's like a gift he's trying to give to you that you give back every week because you know better. And I'll tell you what, I've never met more tired people in my life than Christians. And they say, oh, we rest in Jesus now. Well, if you're resting in Jesus, why are you so tired? Why are you so ragged? You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Where is your rest? Where is your peace? Where is your calm? Because I don't see it in a lot of folks. I'm not going to say there's not some out there who maybe have tapped into something, but I'm going to tell you right now, the people I know are genuinely ragged, tired people. So, yeah. Anyways, I got to go. I got to go to bed. I got to work in the morning. So, love you all. Have a great night.